everyone, and welcome today to Alzheimer Society and Santander's first ever Facebook Live event, which is all about managing your money and your finances while affected by dementia. I'm Morvin and I manage our new strategic change team at Alzheimer Society. So we work with corporates to make them more dementia friendly. So we hear often from people affected by dementia about some of the challenges that they have while interacting with businesses. So our role is to work closely with these businesses to help them improve their processes and products for people affected by dementia. So today, the purpose of this event is to help you, people affected by dementia, to manage your finances. So we're drawing on our close friends across Alzheimer Society and Santander and all our colleagues there to answer as many of your questions as possible. So a little bit about our partnership with Santander. So Alzheimer Society launched a unique and sector-leading strategic partnership with Santander UK in January 2019. And to date, Santander employees have fundraised over 1.7 million, which is amazing. We've been working in collaboration, developing solutions to some of the most challenging issues that those affected by dementia experience. Alzheimer Society also acts as a critical friend to help them better support vulnerable customers. So the overall aim of the partnership is to make Santander the UK's best dementia-friendly bank. Now we've got two experts on the call here today, Helen and Dorothy. So I'd just like to pass over to them to introduce themselves a little bit and so they can tell you a little bit about what they do and what they feel comfortable answering. So Helen, can I ask you to introduce yourself first?
Thanks, Morven, and I'm very glad to be here. My name's Helen Quinn. I'm within the knowledge team at Alzheimer Society. We provide technical support to all our staff and volunteers about a whole range of topics that affect people with dementia or their carers, including legal topics, which is where I come in. We take a lot of queries around decision-making, mental capacity, managing finances, planning ahead, and also around rights and what people with dementia are entitled to. So that's how I fit in, and I'm looking forward to dealing with hopefully most of the questions that you send to us. So thank you. Shall
Thanks,
I pass
Helen.
on to Dorothy?
Yeah.
No, yeah, Dorothy?
Hi, thanks Helen. So I'm Dorothy Livia-Bella and I'm also delighted to be involved in this session today. I've been working at Santander now for nearly 30 years and my role at the bank is leading the vulnerable customer strategy. So I've worked very closely with the Alzheimer Society over the last few years on a number of projects, of which some I think are going to be very useful to share with you today. I'm here, like Helen, to answer as many questions as I possibly can today to help both people who might have had a dementia diagnosis and are living with dementia, but also those that are supporting loved ones with dementia, and particularly with regards to their banking arrangements. So I expect that there are going to be many questions about things like access to accounts, setting up a power of attorney, other kinds of support for third parties. And I'm really looking forward to providing as much information as I can in these very important areas of banking. So thank you.
Thanks, Dorothy, and thanks, Helen, as well. So before we go on to some of the questions that a lot of you have submitted in the last few days, I just want to cover a few housekeeping points. So firstly, and probably most importantly, sadly, we've been made aware that some individuals have been sharing fraudulent links on the event invite and in the chat. So please don't click on any of these links or share any of your personal details. Don't click on the links unless they've come from us, from Alzheimer Society, from our account, and they're in response to a question that you might have asked. The worry here is that these links could be scams, so please don't click on them. On the call today, we won't be asking you to answer any of your bank details or personal details, so please don't answer any of these questions if asked. The event today will be being recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel in the next few days. So I know some of you were asking how you might be able to access that. We will be uploading that onto our YouTube channel in the next few days. So have a look out for that. Then I'd just like to really clarify that Helen and Dorothy, while both experts in their field, they can't provide financial or legal advice. So this is really important. Although they'll aim to answer your finance and dementia-related questions, they are not financial or legal advisors. So the answers provided will be more for information and educational purposes, but for more tailored advice, we'd advise you to consult an independent financial advisor, and they'll be able to give you advice on your specific circumstances. We do have a team of helpers today who will be responding to some of your questions today if you might have asked about questions that we aren't able to cover on our session today, either because they're about a completely different topic, or we feel that you might get a better answer from some of our advisors on our dementia telephone support line. So they'll be answering your questions by typing answers to them today. Great, so I think that's all housekeeping things over. I think we're ready to go on to the questions. So thanks again, everybody who submitted questions ahead of the event in the last few days. It's been really helpful to be able to share these and think of answers to them. And please do continue to submit questions throughout the event, and I will be feeding them to Helen and Quinn when they come in. So great. So the first question today is about daily care needs and financial support. So this has come from Deborah, who says, my 86-year-old mum has Alzheimer's, but is still living in her own home. She can't cook, clean, or shower on her own. I have power of attorney as her daughter, but live 2 hours away. I can get her food deliveries and look after all her household bills. I also have an elderly aunt who visits her every day, but can't do these chores either. How can I get financial help to pay for a cleaner and carer to help her bathe each day? She only eats cold meals every day. What other support can I get for her? She has no money in the bank to fall on. And how do I get her into the system for the help she needs? Helen, would you feel happy to answer that question?
Yeah, of course. Thanks very much, Deborah, and hello to you. It's a good question to start off with. One thing you can do here is to talk to the social services team at your mum's local council. They're sometimes called adult services. And that would be about getting what's called a needs assessment for your mum. So you request a formal needs assessment, and social services will have a look then at what care and support your mum needs. And their assessment will show what needs she has that are what are called eligible needs. And those are needs that the local authority, the council, have a duty to meet. They will do a financial assessment. So they'll look at her finances, what money she has in the bank, what she's got coming in, going out, to decide whether she needs to contribute or whether the local authority will need to pay for any care and support that she gets. But it's definitely worth doing that. Do have a look at our fact sheet on assessment for care and support. That's in the publications section of our website, assessment for care and support, and there's also one on paying for care and support. There are different versions for England, Wales and Northern Ireland because the rules are slightly different in each nation, and I don't know where you are. So hopefully that's a start. If your mum's at risk of harm, you can always contact the safeguarding team at her local council, who will deal with the situation more urgently. So if she's at risk of harm. Another thing you can do is to get a benefits check for your mum from a benefits advisor. An organisation like Citizens Advice or Turn to Us can help you there. They will look at everything that your mum might be entitled to make sure that she is getting everything that she's entitled to receive. I'm assuming she may get a state pension, she might qualify for pension credit. The other thing to think about is something called attendance allowance. You could make an application on her behalf, and that will provide support if she needs help with personal care. Attendance allowance is not means tested, so it doesn't depend on your mum's financial position. And finally, you can always talk to our support line here on 0333 150 3456. Our support line advisors are there to help. They provide a listening ear, and we very much do want to help. So I hope that points you in the right direction, and I do hope that you manage to get some help and support for your mum. Good luck with that. And thanks again for the question.
Thanks, Helen, and thanks, Deborah, for asking the question. And just by way of reminder, this session is being recorded, and we will be publishing the recording on our YouTube channel in the next few days. There's lots of information we'll be giving you, so just if you want to go back on it all. So the next two questions, Dorothy, I think I'll be coming to you for these. They're about losing mental capacity and also getting a power of attorney. So the first questions come from Andrew, who says, let's think beyond early stage dementia to advanced dementia. When somebody can't write, can't speak, and needs 24-hour care, how easy does the banking sector make it to use power of attorney to manage all the financial transactions required? And the second question is coming from Becky in a similar vein, who says, hi, my dad is in hospital with dementia. It has been quite an aggressive decline, so I was not able to get power of attorney, and I don't have the funds to go through the courts to become a deputy. Where do I stand in terms of being able to pay his bills, as he didn't use direct debits? The social worker that has been allocated to his case is next to useless, and I cannot get it through to anyone else that I'm unable to do anything financially for my dad.
Yeah, so thanks for those questions, Andrew and Becky, and I'll try my very best to answer them. And I think they're both really good questions, because they are about they really do demonstrate the importance of getting an attorney appointed before it's too late and the person's lost capacity, because then it can make things really quite difficult. So I'll start off by saying, it is always best for someone to consider who they would have as their attorney and to appoint an attorney via the lasting power of attorney process before you actually need one. Because as you can see in Becky's question, if a dad's now in hospital and if he has lost capacity, it makes things really, really difficult, because the only route really then is to go through the court of protection. When I sometimes refer to power of attorney, I just want to also say that I'm referring to a lasting power of attorney, and that distinguishes it from any other attorney. And the lasting power of attorney is the attorney that you would appoint today if you were going through the process with the Office of Public Guardian. There are two types of lasting power of attorney, one for health and welfare and one for property and financial affairs. And again, when I'm kind of discussing this today, I'm always referring to the property and financial affairs type of attorney. Now, I see this in 3 easy steps. Okay, so the first step really is you need to consider who you would have as your attorney. And you can have as many as you want, but generally people tend to have 1 to 4 people appointed as their attorney. And the first step is you would visit the Office of Public Guardian website, and you would complete an application for that person to be your attorney. Now, you can do that yourself, you can do that online, or you could go to a legal services firm and get some more kind of legal advice on setting up the attorney. So that's step 1. Then step 2, which is really, really important, is the registration of that with the Office of Public Guardian. Now, for that, there is a small fee, and I believe it's £82 per application. So for one person registering one property and financial affairs attorney, that would be £82. And then the third step is then registering that with your bank. So you can choose when to register that attorney with your bank, and you don't necessarily need to register it straight away. So you could wait, but the most important thing, I think, is that you've considered who your attorney is going to be, and you've set up and you've registered the attorney with the Office of Public Guardian. So at a time that you choose, you can then register that attorney with your bank. And at that point, it's at that point that the attorney would then have access to your bank account. They would be able to see your transactions, and they would be able to transact as if they were you. So that's kind of the 3 easy steps to actually going about setting up a power of attorney. Now, as I said before, if you or the person that we're talking about has now lost capacity, they won't be able to appoint an attorney, because at the appointing of an attorney is your decision. So if you've lost capacity, you won't be able to appoint an attorney. So then the only course of action is to go through the court of protection, and that would be the person that's applying to the courts. In this case, Becky will be applying to the courts for court of protection order to then be able to act on behalf of a father. And this is obviously more costly and lengthy, and that's why it's really important to get the attorney set up before a person loses capacity. But with the court of protection, that will then allow you to manage the bank account, and for Becky, as I say, for your father. However, I would say in any event, I would say speak to your bank, because there may be, by exception and for a short term, there might be things that your bank can do to help. So for your individual circumstance, I'd say speak to your bank, explain the situation, and see, what is it you're trying to do, and they'll be able to see if there's anything that you do to help. But outside of that, I'd also just want to mention the DWP appointee. So if a person is in receipt of benefits, and this could include a state pension, you can apply to become an appointee for that person. And that's quite a simple process. And if you go to the website gov.uk, there's a section there on becoming an appointee, and it's very simple, and you can follow the process. And that would then allow you as an appointee to manage those benefit payments that potentially a person's receiving. So that might give you that financial help in the meantime to manage those benefits. Normally what happens is those benefits are paid directly to you, and then you can use them in your father's best interests. So yeah, I mean, I hope that's answered the questions. And Andrew, your question about how easy is it for the banking sector to use the power of attorney. Once you have that attorney registered on your account, I would say it's very easy, because the attorney is then acting as if they were the account holder. So you have online access, you'd have your own card, your own PIN, you'd have full access to the bank account, and can operate that account in exactly the same way as the account holder themselves. So Helen, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add to that.
Thanks, Dorothy. Just a couple of small things, but I think you've covered pretty much everything. Thank you. Yeah, Becky, I mean, I do sympathise. We get a lot of people in your position who find themselves, needing to deal with somebody's finances, and it's too late for that person to make a lasting power of attorney. And normally the only route is deputyship, and it is difficult. I totally hear what you say. As regards the fees, do talk to the Office of the Public Guardian. They have a free helpline. They're very, very helpful. They're the administrative arm, if you like, of the Court of Protection. Talk to them about any help that is available. There is some help available with fees. The fees ultimately, if you get appointed as deputy, you should be able to, if it's a financial deputyship, claim those from the funds of the person for whom you're being appointed deputy. So I appreciate it's not the full solution, because there are still cash flow issues for the person who's got to pay the fees up front. But have a chat with the Office of the Public Guardian. They are there to help, and they very much do encourage inquiries. And the second point I would just mention regarding making a lasting power of attorney, it's a more general point. The Office of the Public Guardian's online tool for making an LPA is absolutely excellent. It's very user-friendly, gives you sort of drop-downs and explanations about what's happening at each stage. And you may find that you're able to complete an LPA yourself using that form. We also at the Society have a team of volunteers who, if you struggle with online access, will support you over the telephone to complete either the form or forms if you're making 2 LPAs online. So if you want details about that, then contact our support line. Yeah, interesting questions. Thank you.
Thanks both for really comprehensive answers there, a full summary of all things power of attorney. So the next question is actually very similar, but this time it's about controllership rather than power of attorney. So Helen, if you'd like to answer this question from Robert, who says, my mum has dementia. Presently, I'm about to apply for controllership of her estate. I have an important task to do for mum. Unfortunately, I can't access her account to carry this out. Can anyone help in this situation?
Okay, thanks for that, Robert, and hello. I'm assuming you're in Northern Ireland, where controllership is the equivalent of a financial deputyship in England and Wales. And if your mum doesn't have mental capacity now to manage her finances, you will need legal authority to access her bank accounts and so forth, and that will mean controllership, which can take a while. I'm assuming which I shouldn't, because it's worth exploring, and one should always presume that someone who has dementia has mental capacity to make a particular decision, but she may still have mental capacity to make a power of attorney. In Northern Ireland, it would be what's called an enduring power of attorney. It's a slightly different system from that in England and Wales, and that would only be for finance, not for health and welfare. So just to double check that. If you say you have an important task to do for your mum, if it's a one-off urgent payment that you need to make, then as Dorothy was saying earlier, I mean, you could always talk to your mum's bank and see what could be done on a one-off basis, but also have a chat with the Office of Care and Protection in Northern Ireland to see if there's anything you can do, again, on a one-off emergency basis to do what you need to do. If you have a solicitor acting for you in relation to the controllership, then they should also be able to help you with that. And just to add, following on from what Dorothy said in response to the last question, if your mum is in receipt of any benefits, you could consider becoming an appointee to be able to manage those on her behalf in her best interests. And you would do that through the Department for Communities in Northern Ireland. It's a similar process to the one Dorothy was explaining. So I hope that is some help and that you managed to make some progress with that, Robert. Thank you.
Really helpful and yeah, really useful answer there. Just a reminder for everyone, if there are additional questions that you would like answered today, please do share them on the Facebook event on the discussion area. We've covered some answers and questions on power of attorney, mental capacity and paying for daily care needs so far. But if you've got additional questions, please do share them. So the next question, Dorothy, I'll be coming to you for, is all about disclosing your dementia to the bank and why that's a useful thing. So there's 2 questions here. One is from Dave, who says, why should I tell my bank I have dementia? What can they do for me? And is there a reason not to? And also a question from Santina, who says, with so many technical gadgets to use and PIN numbers to remember for all of us, how can we use these to say that people have dementia or Alzheimer's?
Okay, well, again, thank you for those questions. They're really, really good questions. And Dave, yes, you know exactly why should you tell your bank if you have dementia or any other issue at all? I mean, I would start off by saying there are many reasons why it is good to disclose a dementia diagnosis or any other need that you might have with your bank. You don't have to, so there's no mandate, there's no term and condition of your account that says you have to tell us when your situation might change. You would decide when the time is right. So you might have a really good relationship with your local branch, and it might be something that you discuss with them, but you'll decide when the time is right and when you want to disclose your diagnosis to us or to your bank. all banks will have a different way of recording this information, and on our systems we have a way of recording this information so that other colleagues across the bank can view this information and can understand your needs. So, as I say, you might have a really good relationship with your local branch, but if ever you were to need to phone us, it may be that you would speak to someone who doesn't know you. So for them to be able to know that you have got dementia will be really, really useful, because they will be able to kind of adapt their, their approach accordingly. You won't have to then disclose it multiple times. So once you've told us once, you won't have to repeat yourself. So you won't need to explain over and over again if, for example, you've forgotten some information and you're struggling to try and find it. So that's one, really good reason that you won't have to tell us multiple times, and that colleagues across the bank will be able to see this information and will be able to act on it accordingly. And it's maybe kind of those simple things like, if you need more time, if you don't want to be rushed, if you don't want to be asked for certain bits of information, we can note that so that we can take that into account when we're talking to you. Also, some people have come forward and said that they're really worried about being scammed. They've heard a lot in the news about being scammed, and with their diagnosis, they're really quite worried about this. So again, if we can put that on the notes on your account, when you are doing transactions, and maybe they're, large or unusual transactions, and you're talking to colleagues across the bank, either in the branch or on the phone, we'll be able to see, that you've got the diagnosis of dementia and really help to protect you. So might ask you some more questions about the transaction that you're doing to try and help you, being protected from a potential scam. Also, we'll be able to talk to you about the support that we can offer. So there might be many, many things that we can offer. And again, if you don't bank with Santander but bank with somebody else, there might be many things that your bank can offer to help you. And I'll go through a couple of those now. But for example, at Santander, we have a supported banking proposition or range, which is really designed for people that might need support from a third party. So, we've discussed a lot already about a power of attorney, and that's probably, or a lasting power of attorney, should I say, that's probably a very common, facility for people to take out when they need support from a third party. But what you might not know is that we also offer a third party access. So without having a power of attorney set up, you can have a third party added to your account. So that could be, a trusted family member or friend who you want to add to your account so that they can help and support you when you need it. So that's a facility that, if you discuss with us that you've got a diagnosis of dementia and maybe, whatever your needs are, if you're, starting to find things more difficult, it may be that a third party could be added to your account. And we also offer a carers card. So, many people have carers, and those carers might be paid carers, or they might be the neighbour, the friend, the gardener, a family member who helps in your care. So, they might go out and do some shopping for you, or pay some bills, or, do some online transactions. And we offer a carers card so that you don't need to share your own card and PIN with that person, which I know is something that many people don't like to do, because it compromises both you and also the person that you're sharing your card and your PIN with. And obviously that's not something that we would ever suggest that you do. So the carers card allows you to provide for that carer their own card and PIN, and you can put as much as up to, I think, £1,500 on that card, but you could put as much as you felt that they needed for doing those daily tasks like, shopping or paying for bills. So there are many things that we can offer, and say your bank might offer as well, that might be able to help you, just give you that little bit extra support. I would say that there's probably not a reason, not to disclose to us. And also, just one other thing, when someone discloses to us that they've got dementia or say any other issue or capacity limitation at all, we don't freeze your account, and we don't assume therefore that you have lost your capacity. In fact, quite the reverse. We feel that supporting your independence is really, really important, and we'll be there to support you in maintaining your independence with your banking arrangements, whilst trying to protect you at the same time. So, you know, you should not be worried at all that if you tell us that you've got dementia, we're going to freeze your account and assume that you don't have capacity. It's quite the reverse. And I think just finally to say that, you know, through our partnership with the Alzheimer Society over the last few years, we have got many, many dementia friends across the bank. In fact, in our branches, 80% of our colleagues are dementia friends. So we've gone through quite a rigorous program across the bank to upskill our colleagues so that they can spot signs of dementia, they can speak to you, being, you know, fully aware and you know, aware of the condition and some of the challenges that that might bring. So, you know, again, don't be afraid or don't kind of put it off, because our colleagues are there as dementia friends to help you and to talk to you. So again, I hope that's answered your question, Dave and Santina.
Yeah, and also just to make it clear for those of you who don't know what Dementia Friends is, that's Alzheimer Society's awareness raising initiative that helps people understand a little bit more about dementia and helps them think about how they can help people who are living with dementia. Dorothy, this next question's come in, which is similar to, or it's sort of, yeah, within the category of why you should disclose your dementia to the bank, I think. It's just a question just come in from Chris, who says, do you have a free or low cost bank card which can just have £0 or £50 loaded on it so that a person with dementia could carry it with them for coffees, etc., and small purchases without the whole bank account being accessed, which could possibly have a risk of scamming or fraud?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a really, really good question. And I guess it depends on that. As you say, the question was from Chris.
Yeah, from Chris.
Yeah, so hello, Chris, and thank you for your question. I guess it really depends on your own personal circumstances. So, I mean, the sorts of things that I would be asking you are, do you have an attorney appointed, or are you managing all of your accounts on your own? Or do you have the option, if you don't already have an attorney or a third party, to have someone support you? Because there are ways around that. So whilst I'd say right now we wouldn't have, you know, like a kind of just a card that you can put £50 on, apart from the carers card that I've just previously mentioned, which is the carers card that you can put as much or as little as you want on, up to £1,500. So you could have that card with, you know, just £50 on it, but someone would kind of need to be supporting you to top that up. So I think probably the best approach for someone that needs that kind of facility or wants that kind of facility would be to have a third party support them and help them, and maybe considering opening an account, a separate account, whereby the third party just puts into that account the amount that's requested or needed by the account holder. So I think there's a way around that. But again, you know, speak to your own bank if that's not Santander, because, you know, I don't know all of the facilities that other banks do offer. But certainly if you are a Santander customer, I'd say come in and talk to us about what it is you're looking to do. But I think the answer for you is probably to have that third party support you, who can then top up an account or a card with the amount of money on that you want, but to kind of like keep the rest of the funds separate. And perhaps if you didn't need to have access to all of the accounts, you could have the attorney manage your main account with all of your funds in, and for you not to have, you know, the facility to manage those funds anymore, but to have a separate account that you do use for your daily shopping and daily coffee.
Yeah, and I think what else might be really helpful is to know a little bit about our company or product called Sibstar that's been sort of created by people with people affected by dementia for people affected by dementia. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about that, which is sort of an accessible banking tool, then just search for Sibstar and Alzheimer's Society. So the next question's about sort of benefits and council tax. So I'm going to merge two questions and Helen, direct these to you if that's okay. So there's a question from Carol who says, do you know that if you're looking after a loved one with dementia, then you're classified as a single person on your council tax? And the second one has just come in from Janine and it says, I have early onset Alzheimer's and I'm 53. I don't work now. I receive PIP and UC. Helen, you'll have to explain what all these abbreviations are. And am I entitled to any other benefits, please? I have my bus pass and my rail card. Is there any advice you can offer to Janine there, Helen?
Okay, I'll take Janine's first. Janine, I'm not a benefits expert, I'm afraid. What we always say to people is if you want to make sure you're getting all the benefits that you're entitled to, then get a benefits check done by a specialist benefits advisor. So try Citizens Advice or turn to us. You may also have specific local support advice services which may be able to help you. We do have a fact sheet on benefits, which is a sort of overview of the types of benefit to which a person with dementia at different stages might be entitled to. So I would suggest you have a read of that. Coming on to Carol's question about council tax, if you are living with somebody who has dementia, they can be ignored, for want of a better word. I'm not suggesting we ignore them, but for council tax purposes, you have to make an application, but if you're successful, the effect is they are ignored for council tax purposes, provided that certain conditions are met. So if there are only two of you living in the house, then if the person with dementia is ignored, having been through this process, which I'll come on to just now, then the remaining person is treated as a single person and then would get the single person's discount of 25%. So the conditions you have to satisfy are that you need to have, it's an awful phrase, but a severe mental impairment. That's from the rules. You need a medical professional such as a GP to certify that to your local authority. And you also need to be entitled to receive certain benefits. The most common of those are attendance allowance, disability living allowance, or PIP. But there are others. It's just that you need to be entitled to those. You don't necessarily have to actually be in receipt of them. You do have to fill in a form and you can get that from your local council. If that doesn't apply to you, then there are other exemptions that apply in relation to council tax. So I would always say it's worth talking to your local council tax team to check what else you might be entitled to. And if you have a look on our website under discounts, disregards and exemptions on council tax, you will see a little bit more detail on all of that there. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Helen. So the next question, or two questions, they were about spending limits, and there's a question here which is specifically about Santander. So Dorothy, I'll come to you. So first question is from Mary, who says, why can't Santander put a cap on card spending for someone living with dementia? And the second question is from Carol, who says, is there a way that a card can be blocked from making telephone transactions and instead used at cash machines and for in-store, so shop, transactions only? Power of attorney is in place, but we're being told it's not possible. Scammers are having a field day over the phone, and although the number is in the process of being changed and a call blocker is in place, they're still managing to get through.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for those questions. And yeah, I've got I think I've got quite a lot of information to depart on these two areas. I think these two questions are around. It seems to me that they're both around protecting people from potentially overspending or getting caught up on the telephone and carrying out transactions that you wouldn't really want them to be doing, or you wouldn't really want to be doing those yourself. So in terms of card controls, there are a lot of card controls that we do have. Okay, so as I said before, maintaining independence is really, really important, but with having the safeguards in place. So I'll kind of just go through a few of the safeguards that we do have in place now, but I'm going to also mention some that we're looking at doing. So Mary, keep your ears open, because there's something that I think you're going to like when I get to the end of this question. So limiting cash withdrawals at the ATM, I mean, that's something that we've been asked to do, and we've now put that in place. So before, your card would have a £300 per day limit of cash that you could withdraw from the ATM. And we were asked by somebody, could we change that so that you could have a much lower limit? And we've done that. So now, if you don't want to use or feel it's a risk to use the ATM for cash, you can have your card changed so that you can have a much lower limit. So you can either reduce your limit to 0, so you can't use cash at the ATM, or £60, so a lot lower than the £300 that it normally comes with. In terms of card caps on spending, which is Mary's particular question, I'd say if you bank with another bank, ask your bank, because there may well be caps that are available, and we're looking at this. So it's not something that we can do today, but keep asking us, Mary, because we are looking at that. So hopefully we will be able to launch something with a cap on card spending in the not too distant future. If you are concerned, however, about your own spending, or if you're looking after someone and caring for someone with dementia, I'd say, like I said before, it might be that the time is right now to consider adding a third party or setting up a lasting power of attorney, so that that person can kind of oversee your account. One of the things that it's probably worth just kind of stressing is, if you have a lasting power of attorney added to your account, it doesn't mean that you can't still continue to use your account. You can still continue to use your account just like you did, but the power of attorney or the lasting power of attorney or the third party that's on your account, they might take a very kind of step back approach, which is just to oversee what you're doing. So they'd be able to go online, have a look at the transactions that are being carried out, and kind of just be there as a support in the background. They don't necessarily need to take over the managing of your account. You can still do that even when you've got your attorney registered with the bank. As there be before as well, look at some of the other options that are available, like our carers card, for example. That might be something that's useful for you, or for the person that's helping and caring for you. As I mentioned to the answer to the question from Chris as well before, it may be, and with the support of a third party, that opening another account separate from your main account might be a useful thing for you to do, with a limited amount of money in it, that the third party can kind of keep topping up as and how they need. In terms of other card controls, we can put a stop on international payments. So if you feel that you're never going to need to do an international payment, you can stop that yourself, actually, through the Santander app. You can also stop gambling transactions. So you can, basically at the touch of a button on the app, you can block your account for all gambling transactions. As I mentioned before, you can also put a daily cash withdrawal limit on your account of either £0 or £60. And also, online access, I mean, a lot of people have online access, but you know, they might be worried that they might do something online that they didn't really want to do. You can change your online access to view only. So there's a mode where you can set it up so that you only have view only access. So you won't be able to do any transactions online, but you can still see your account online. And also you can freeze your card completely, and you can unfreeze it as yourself as well through the app. So, you know, if there are times when you just kind of want to freeze your card and then unfreeze it, there's a facility through the app to do so. As say, if you've got a lasting power of attorney set up, then they will have online access, so they can keep an eye on things for you, and they can help you set these blocks up for, you know, for you. As I say, do check with your own bank though, if it's not Santander, because there might be other things as well that are available. But Mary, just coming back to your original question, we're looking at that, and hopefully it won't be too long before we can do that.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you.
So the next two questions are about deputyships. I think they've just come in following our discussion about that before. So I'll take them one by one, and Helen, I think I'm going to direct these to you if that's okay. So the first question comes from Morgan, and apologies if I've said your name incorrectly there. So they say, is there anything we can do while waiting for deputyship to work through the courts? We live 300 miles away and she cannot use chip and PIN, and they can't access the bank. What if the person would not agree to appoint an attorney before losing capacity? We have nothing in place and need to go through the courts.
Yeah, I do sympathise with you. Thanks for the question. It does highlight, which is no great consolation to you, that it's a good idea to, if the person can put a lasting power of attorney in place early on. If it's not possible for them to do that, and clearly you're going the deputyship route now, it does take quite a long time. All I can really say is, if you really, really need to make a payment, it's a little bit like the controllership question that I dealt with a few questions back. There is scope for you to make a sort of one-off application to the Court of Protection. There is some information on the gov.uk website about how to do that if you haven't got a solicitor acting for you in relation to the deputyship. If you have, then talk to the solicitor about that. But if you have a look at urgent/emergency applications to Court of Protection, if, for example, you need to pay care fees or you know, buy basic things for the person's welfare, then have a look at that. You can always talk to the free helpline at the Office of the Public Guardian as well, and they may be able to help you through the process. So it's not an ideal solution, I'm afraid, and we don't, you know, nothing's perfect, but that is, that's what I would suggest, and I do wish you well with that.
Thanks. And I'm wondering if that might have also answered your question, Marie. So Marie says, my dad's building society nationwide have been fantastic. Who are the best people to help with the deputyship process? So Helen, you mentioned the Office of Public Guardian. Is there anybody else?
With the process, yes. I mean, I'm glad to hear the bank's been supportive. If you're actually wanting to apply for a deputyship, yeah, if you Google Office of the Public Guardian, go onto the Office of the Public Guardian's website, there is a lot of useful information there about the process and the forms. We ourselves, Alzheimer Society, also have a fact sheet on deputyship. So if you put that in the search box on our website, or if you have a look under publications and fact sheets, you'll find a fact sheet there which talks you through the basics of the process. You will, when you get to the end of the line with the deputyship process, then need to liaise with the bank about notifying the bank of the deputyship and putting in place the administrative requirements that the bank require. But it's good to hear that nationwide, I think it was, have been helpful. So hopefully they'll continue in that vein.
Great, thanks. Now this next question has come in from Alex, and I'm going to direct it to you, Helen. And although I don't think you're perhaps the best person to answer it, perhaps you could advise on some signposting, because it sounds like a difficult situation. So Alex says, "Hi, my mum has advanced dementia and is in a care home. I have power of attorney for health and welfare. We don't either have a DNA CPR or an advanced healthcare directive in place, and we're trying to investigate the possibility with her GP, but obviously they are busy at the moment and we haven't had a response. It has become more urgent as she has deteriorated significantly over the last few days, sleeping almost constantly. Is this going to be something we'll be able to do, do you think? Is the GP the right port of call? Thank you."
Thanks for that. Yeah, well, I mean, if you have a lasting power of attorney for health and welfare, then that gives you the right to make, unless there's something in the document that says you can't, which would be quite unusual, you do have the right to make decisions about the person's health and care, which may amount to refusing treatments on their behalf. There's a particular box on the health and welfare lasting power of attorney form that the person who made the LPA needs to have ticked if you are given the power as attorney to refuse what's called life-sustaining treatment on their behalf. So have a look at that document. If you don't have that option, then you still generally have the power to make decisions about that person's health. They may themselves have made what's called an advanced decision to refuse treatment, or an advanced statement, which is less of a sort of legally binding document. It's more a statement of wishes about future care. And if they no longer, if there isn't one of those and they're no longer in a position to make one of those, then that there isn't an awful lot you can do about that. I mean, the person may still have wishes and preferences that you should still take into account as part of best interest decision making as attorney. A DNR notice is actually put in place by doctors rather than being a decision on the part of the person or family and friends, or even an attorney. The point being, you don't have a right to demand treatment. You can refuse treatment as an individual or as LPA attorney for somebody if you have that power, but you don't have a right to insist on having treatment if doctors don't think it is appropriate. So with the DNR, that's basically a statement that doctors have decided that in the individual's particular circumstances, and it does need to be looked at case by case, that person would not clinically benefit from artificial resuscitation. So I hope that has answered your questions. I mean, by all means, discuss all of this with your GP, and you know, they will confirm what I've said, I hope. But I mean, it's good that you've got that LPA for health and welfare. You know, you do have significant decision-making power there. So not many people have that, or make a health and welfare LPA. So you know, that's good to hear.
Thanks for that, Helen. So we're just coming towards the end of the event, so there's 5 minutes left, and there have been lots of questions submitted throughout the event, which is, you know, incredible, and it's really helpful, but I do worry that we might not be able to answer them all. So I'm going to we're going to try and answer a few more of these questions, but then I'll be able to give you some information on where you might be able to get these questions answered at the end of the event. So the next question, I think, is about joint accounts and power of attorney. So Dorothy, I think I might be coming to you initially about this. So the first question is from Izzy, who says, am I right in thinking a power of attorney would not be needed for a joint account for one account holder to use? Mm-hmm. And then the second question is from Chris. So Chris says, can an able account holder continue to use their joint account once the other account holder has had their EPA, so ensuring power of attorney, registered? This is a pre-October 2007 original EPA. Are there any likely disadvantages in registering the EPA? Currently able to pay all household and care bills using the joint account with no registration done yet. So
Thanks for those questions, and I will try and be fairly quick on this so we can get through a few more questions. But in terms of adding a power of attorney on a joint account, again, the attorney is acting on behalf of the person that's appointed them. So two people on a joint account could each have a separate attorney or attorneys acting for them. And I would say it is definitely worth considering registering your attorney, even on a joint account. And one of the main reasons for that is if it's a joint account and one person's starting to lose capacity, but the other joint account holder is maintaining the management of that account, that's fine whilst that person has still got their capacity. But if anything was to happen to that joint account holder, which meant they were incapacitated from managing the account, it would then mean that there's no one in effect to manage that account. So for the person who's losing or lost capacity, it is really important that they have their attorney registered so that that person can act for them and on behalf of them if the other account holder isn't able to. So that's a very quick answer to that question, I think.
Thank you. And then, so a question just came in from Gaynor, who says, who and when should mental capacity be assessed, please? So, Helen, do you want to have a go at answering that question?
Oh, yes. Good question. Short answer is it depends. It depends what decision needs to be made and when it needs to be made. Mental capacity under the Mental Capacity Act is what's called time and decision specific. So in deciding whether somebody lacks capacity, you can't really say that in general terms. It's lacks capacity to make a particular decision at a particular time. So all sorts of people might need to make decisions on behalf of a person, or you might have a particular situation where you'd need to decide whether the person can decide for themselves, perhaps about where they live, whether they go into residential care. Who can decide really depends whether the person's made a lasting power of attorney or whether there's a deputyship in place. That person will then have very significant powers in relation to property and finance or potentially health and welfare. But even then, those people have to act in the person's best interest. They may need to take advice. Quite often in best interest decision making, it's a sort of a joint approach. You get views from all sorts of different people who know the person, know perhaps what they would have wanted, what they wish for now, try and consult the person as much as possible. You really need to look at each decision and each moment in time. I know that's not massively helpful. Sometimes it might be medical professions that take the lead, sometimes it might be social workers, sometimes it might be family members. If there is no LPA or deputyship in place, anybody making a decision on behalf of the person, if they can't make it for themselves, must act in that person's best interest.
That's really helpful.
That's the basic principle. So sorry to go on.
No, that's fine. So thank you everyone so much for answering questions today. Thank you, Helen and Dot, for your time. And huge thanks to everyone affected by dementia who submitted questions. As I mentioned, the session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube in the next few days for people to refer to. As a reminder, we have been made aware of individuals who've shared fraudulent links on the chat and on the event invite. So please don't click on these links. We know that there are lots of questions that we weren't able to answer today. So if you would like further guidance and support, our support line is available on 0333 150 3456. And we have lots of money and dementia related content on our website. We also have an online shop full of helpful everyday products that have been designed with people affected by dementia for people living with dementia. So if you're interested in finding out more about these, please do head over to our online shop at shop.alzheimers.org.uk and look at our helpful products. Some of the really useful Santander specific information that Dorothy helpfully shared today is available in Santander's dementia guide. So if you're a Santander customer living with or caring for someone with dementia, I'd recommend searching for dementia on the Santander website to access this handy leaflet. And lastly, we'd really love to know your feedback. So we'll be sending attendees a post-event survey on Facebook, and as well as the link to rewatch this session on YouTube. So please do look out for these posts from Alzheimer Society's Facebook over the next few days. Thank you, everybody, for your time today, and I hope that that was useful. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.